What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down what young wide receivers can do to stand out to coaches, whether you are a freshman coming into varsity, whether you're a freshman in college, whatever it might be, but it's how you guys can make a great first impression on a coach and get him to really believe in you and trust you in his offense. So I hope this video helps you guys out, fellas, but also if you're a wide receiver and you want to know the specific drills that you need to be doing to improve, like your route running, your press releases, your hands, explosiveness, things on the field, check out that very first link in the description below for our 8-week wide receiver on-field workout plan. What it is, you'll get over 200 plus drills broken down into a daily, weekly, 2-week-long schedule with sets, reps, and a video example of each exercise. So check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So one thing that I think can help you stand out is, obviously we're looking at a clip here from Davante Adams. Best wide receiver, prototypical wide receiver that everybody loves to say is the best in the game. And I think he is the best in the game. What a young wide receiver can do to stand out to a coach that you can pull from Adams' game is smoothness. So when I say smoothness, a lot of people say, oh, that route was smooth, that release was smooth. But what does that exactly mean? So when you guys are at the top of the route, you have to be able to be smooth in and smooth out of the break. You hear one of my favorite interviews is Nick Saban talking about what they look for in wide receivers. And even as a defensive guy, Nick Saban talks about what we look for in our guys, Alabama wide receiver U, that we look for smoothness in and out of cuts. How can you sell vertical? Can you get into the break fast? And can you get out of the break fast? So when you guys are running a route like a speed cut, we see this from Davante Adams right here. The mechanics of this type of movement is something that I believe can be replicated by everybody. Now, I think there are drills to obviously work on these things. There are things that you need to be able to improve on to be able to get to this level. I don't think that you can, necessarily run as hard as you can, cut on one single step and be sharp with the cut without working on some things like ankle stability, knee stability, overall leg strength. But that's a given, right? We need to work on those things. That's why those things are important. But what we are trying to build on with those things is this right here. So when you guys go up into a route, what a coach looks for is like, okay, can this guy self-fade? Right? So a lot of receivers are fast, but when they get to the top of the route, they're pretty crappy. So when you guys are running routes, it's not necessarily about being the fastest guy, the most explosive guy. Can you sell vertical? Right? Because what gets a DB to bail out of there, what gets you separation, what makes you look good and create space, because again, a coach may not even be looking for these little details, but they're looking for separation. If you can get separation, that comes down from a couple things: selling fade and getting out of that break with no wasted motion. So when I'm selling fade, what a lot of people like to do when they do this like one single cut is they like to round. Right? So many wide receivers don't look smooth out of their breaks. They lose explosion because right before they cut, this hip and this shoulder to the side of the break start to turn. They don't keep their hips and their shoulders committed vertical until that last possible second. So that's what you have to do as a wide receiver to be able to get that separation at the top of the break to stand out amongst a crowd of a lot of wide receivers. Because I'll tell you what wide receivers do when they first get into high school. They'll get in this spot, they'll self-fade, and then when they make this break, they'll drift way upfield, or they start to round it and they lose speed, or they take this hard cut, but they have no stability, they have no suddenness, so they take extra steps. Fellas, you have to make sure that we commit my hips, commit my shoulders, and this cut is inside of my frame. That is another thing that I want to stress. For that smoothness in and out of breaks, believe me, coaches don't want to see you reaching for cuts, dragging the back foot, having all this turf come up in the air. They want to see you guys be able to cut in stride, keep the cut inside your frame, stay committed to that fade, and drive off of that cut leg to get you out of the break fast. That is textbook right there from Davante Adams. Obviously a great guy. Obviously very, very top tier. Probably the best receiver in the world right now. But again, there are things that you can pull from his game and add it to your own game. And that is the name of the game in terms of what we are trying to teach you. Okay, so now, second thing that I feel to be able to stand out as a wide receiver, and this is so rare for young guys, so rare for when you're entering high school, when you're maybe, stepping into the youth football scene, college, even in college, because I train a lot of college receivers that don't know this stuff. You got to have a high football IQ. You cannot be that guy that doesn't know how to run routes, especially if you are undersized, because I'm assuming, the fast guys, the explosive guys, the tall guys who pass the eye test, all those guys are going to stand out. That's just, honestly, God, plain and simple how it is. That's just how the game of football is played. I wish it was different, but that's just how it is. So sometimes, the guys who maybe aren't the fastest on the field, maybe they're fast, but they're undersized. Those guys kind of slip into the cracks. And how can you guys stand out and showcase yourself and show that you can be that guy for that team? And that's by having a high football IQ. Knowing how to run routes and knowing how to attack different situations can make you look faster than what you actually are, because you'll get more separation. All it comes down to, fellas, is separation and doing what that coach asks you to do and doing it well. So let's play this thing full speed. So this is a fade route against off coverage inside shade. So this wide receiver does a great example, or shows a great example of what you can do against that look and how you guys can attack this. So we have inside shade coverage. What a lot of young guys will do against this, and they have to run a fade, is they will just take off and go run because they don't understand the leverage that this DB is trying to keep. So when I have a DB who's lined up inside shade, and this is like an off man scenario, but it's also zone coverage as well. Why is he inside shade? Because he doesn't want you to run inside. So he is trying to do whatever possible to prevent this receiver from running a post, running a dig, running a deep skinny post. Force him to the outside because the sideline is like an extra defender. So what wide receivers will do is that they'll see this and they'll be like, oh, I can just go run around him. My route's to the outside. I can just go take off and run to the outside. That is exactly what he wants you to do. Because if you just try to take off and run around him, he's going to get hands right into your hip, squeeze you to the sideline, and you're not going to have any space. And when you're a yard from that sideline, that QB cannot throw you open. He has to put that ball in a perfect spot and 1 out of 100 throw. And that's a very, very tough thing to do. So you got to set yourself up. You got to give yourself some space. And that's where having that high football IQ comes into play. So this wide receiver shows you want to attack the DB. You want to try to step on his toes. You want to attack his leverage. And by what I mean by that is he's inside leverage. So I want to angle my stem. And what my stem is me like running into the break, that portion where you're running into the break. I want to angle my stem at him and try to step on his toes. Because when I can do that, what do you think he's going to do? He has to protect the inside. So if you attack him inside, he's going to widen to the inside. And guess what? Now we have all this space to the outside. When I make this break, I could be hip to hip with him and have 10, 15 yards for that QB to fade me out. That is what we want, and that is how you guys can run this route. So, fellas, if you want to stand out, if you're maybe not that guy who passes the eye test, you're not a 4.40 guy, this is how you can stand out. You look at some of the guys who maybe aren't the fastest in the NFL. Jarvis Landry, Cooper Kupp, I don't think ran the best 40 time on paper, right? He's probably a lot faster than what it says on the 40 time. But you look at those guys, Hunter Renfrow, for example. All those guys know how to run routes. Granted, it might be a little bit harder for them to get separation, but that is how they stand out. And again, sometimes if you're in the NFL, that's how you make a damn roster, and that's how you get to be paid to play a game for a living, right? Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver showcasing how to run this route, how to attack that DB's leverage to set up space to the outside. And fellas, it's not complicated. You look at that, it wasn't some fancy move that he did. It just had to do with his stem, and the stem is everything in that particular situation. All right, so now let's play this thing full speed on this next clip. The last thing to be able to stand out is you got to make big plays. That's just plain and simple how it is. So if you're trying to stand out, whether that's to a college coach, maybe you're trying to get recruited. If you're trying to stand out to a high school coach, maybe you're playing 7-on-7, you're trying to start. College, same situation. You got to make big plays. You got to show that you are a playmaker. So it comes down to a lot of routes like, double moves. When you get a double move opportunity, you have to make sure what you're doing is correct, and you can win, and you can make the catch downfield. So this is going to be like a little stutter go here. So if I have to run a stutter go, a couple main things that we want to think about. We actually have to drop my hips, and I have to make sure that I keep my head down to widen the distance. We have to be a salesman first, and we have to accelerate second. So when he comes up into this break here, you see obviously he takes the outside release. He's selling like he's running this stop route, a comeback route. So when a DB is in man coverage, again, this comes back to having a high football IQ. Where are his eyes supposed to be? Hips. So when you guys are trying to sell this like stutter go, stop and go, you actually got to change levels with your hips. You actually got to snap down, because when we snap down like this, what do you think that makes a DB think? When he sees the hips drop, what is he going to do? He's going to drop. He's going to stop his feet because he wants to try to drive on that comeback and make a play just like we do. So that's what we have to do to sell the route. Same thing if I'm running like a post corner. When I run to that post, I better be running hard. I better be running full stride, full speed. My hips and shoulders are committed, because that makes it look like the actual route. It actually makes it look like the first route that we're trying to sell. It's not just a weak, choppy steps and a stutter go. It's not just a weak little chatter of your feet. We're actually selling the movement. Now, when I get separation, we got to keep separation, especially if you're not that best athlete on the field. So we get that DB's feet to stop. I don't care if he's faster than you. You still got to focus on widening the distance. Let's keep that head down. Let's pump my arms. Let's actually stride out. So now when I look back for that ball, I got this DB by a step or two, and I could set myself up to make this big play. Fellas, you've got to be able to make big plays if you want to stand out. If you're trying to stand out to a college coach and you're in high school, the biggest plays that you make all year should be the only plays on your highlights, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an explosive playmaker who can make big plays downfield, make big catches downfield to help them win games. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver. This is Sky Moore here. He just got drafted this year. Great job dropping the hips, selling the route, and then accelerating back upfield to win on this play. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comments section below. We always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you would like an 8-week daily wide receiver on-field training schedule for all the drills you need to be doing as a wide receiver with sets and reps, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.